Welcome back to the Real Estate Excellence Podcast. Today's guest is one of the most popular real estate authors, podcasters, coach, and speakers. He has over 270,000 followers on Instagram where he posts real estate tips and knowledge regularly. He has written two books, Zero to Diamond and List to Last: How to Survive Every Real Estate Market Crash. He has over 1 billion in gross volume sales as a solo agent. He will be a keynote at the October 15th event here in St. Augustine, sponsored by the St. Augustine St. John's Board of Realtors. Let's welcome this amazing real estate influencer who literally says, reach out to me if you need help, and gives so much of his time to others, Ricky Carruth, to the show.
Oh man, I'm honored, bro. Thank you
Uh,
for that.
I'm honored that you came on. I'm so glad. Agents around here, I've been really, because I'm a sponsor. My town bank, my daytime job is a sponsor, and I've been literally reaching out to all over to the 200 agents that I've had on the podcast here, and letting them know, because some of them are up in Jacksonville and not necessarily
Yeah,
getting the St. John's board, and they are excited you're coming. So
yeah.
hopefully we'll see a good wide variety from the entire Northeast Florida region.
Good, man. Yeah, I'm super excited.
Yeah.
It's gonna be a 2-hour session, so it's gonna be a lot of stuff. And you know, it's gonna be somewhat drinking out of a fire hose kind of situation, for the agents there, which is good because, some of the information, won't be relevant to everyone. And you'll be able to get something, you're gonna get something out of it. So I'm excited to come share.
Right. I've been, obviously digging into your stuff, digging in. I was just sitting here watching one of your more recent speaks. You've been traveling around quite a bit, giving some talks,
Mm.
in trainings. What are you seeing with this whole, well, I mean, let's just jump out of the whole thing. I think the whole National Association Realtor settlement. I'm told not to call it NAR, call it National Association of Realtors. With the whole settlement, what are you seeing as you poke around in some of these different boards and you're speaking to some of these people, maybe on sidebars and stuff?
Mhm.
I'm hearing there's some agents that are obviously using it as an excuse to step out, and obviously you're glass half full kind of person. You're seeing
Mhm.
it as this as an opportunity.
It's a huge opportunity. I mean, it really is. It's not an opportunity for people who don't want to increase their skill level, and they don't want to continue to grow as a person and as an agent and as a professional and as a business person. Um, but yeah, it's a huge opportunity. We're seeing agents get more money on the buyer side because they're able to negotiate their own commission. So the agents that are more experienced and that have developed the skills and that understand what their value is. I think one of the problems is that newer agents don't really understand their value the same way that the general public doesn't really understand agents' value. There was a study done, and the general public, 85 or 50% of the general public in this study thought that their agent, as a buyer's agent, worked 15 hours for them on the deal. That's what they said in the survey. And actually, it was 80 to 100 hours. See, there's a big misconception
Yeah.
between what we do as agents, the time that we put in, the things that we do, right? That was across about 120 to 150 different activities that they did during that time. And the general public doesn't realize this. And it's our fault. We haven't done a good job of articulating what our value is and what we actually do. That's going to change. But that's one thing that's going to come out of this is that the cream's going to come to the top for what we actually do because now it's came to light, because it's had to, because the whole thing has been from a monetary standpoint, it's disrupted the our model and how we've operated. And really, one of the biggest reasons is because the general public, the juries, the juror on the jury stand, the lawyers didn't understand what our value actually is. And a lot of that's our fault, but that's going to change. Right now, there's
Yeah.
companies out there actually taking charge of being leaders in proving to people with data what our actual value is. So what I'm getting at is that the more experienced agents are actually negotiating more money. Like there was a lot of examples where the seller was paying 2.5%, and the buyer agent ended up getting 3. I've heard that story so many times over the past 45 days since the rules came into effect to make your head spin. And on the flip side, the agents that are newer and less experienced and haven't developed the skills yet, they're getting less. They're basically just taking whatever they can get. They're not even trying to get more. They're just, and in some cases they're giving it away.
Yeah.
Um, so, it's interesting because it's put us in a boat where why should a brand new agent get paid the same amount as a 20-year agent that has all these systems in place and understands the game and is able to actually, I don't want to say bring more value, but offer better service because of their experience. Why should that brand new agent get more money? I mean the same amount of money as a 20-year veteran who actually provides more value than that brand new agent. That's kind of the system that we were in before.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that it goes both ways. Less experienced agents, are going to make less, and it's a good thing because it gives them an opportunity to develop the skills they need to be a great agent, So, I think it's good all around, and it will flush some agents out. You will
Yeah.
see some agents get flushed out of the business for sure.
I'd like to see one thought I had, talking to different agents and talking about this. And there's so many things, the public only sees the tip of the iceberg and all
Mhm.
the things that you're doing behind the scenes. To actually take a journal from start to finish of every time you, just like a lawyer's tracking their hours and working on your case, that
Mhm.
you're working with that every time that client calls you at 8 o'clock and needs a, you know, consultation, whether it's a
Mhm.
family issue or negotiation, all the different things that you do on those odd calls late at night to keep them in the deal and so forth. People don't realize that's going on, and I'd love to see someone actually just journal that and, like I said, track that 80 to 100 hours you're talking about.
They have
Because
it.
I think, like I said, the general public is not aware.
They have it. They have it. There's a company called Raise, Rayse, and what they do is you become a member of that or whatever. You create an account and everything, and then you link your buyer to you as the agent on the deal, and it literally tracks everything you're talking about, like like the mileage, going driving
Yep.
to show the property, talking to them for 15 minutes in the driveway as you're leaving, talking about what they might want to do or the next house you're going to go look at. Like all those things add up.
Yep.
And this app is called Raise. Have you heard of it?
No, I have not.
So Raise, so about 40% of it's automated where you don't have to really do much, but they're getting better, and and in the near future it'll be about 90% automated where you don't really have to do much at all as far as going on the app and logging stuff. It's kind of automatically doing everything as far as logging everything, but it's linked to your buyer, right? And it shows your buyer in real time the hours you're putting in, the mileages you're
Wow.
going, the etc. Right, the phone calls you're making, right, negotiating, dealing with the other agents, stuff of that nature. And at the end of the deal, it literally shoots out a report. Right, shows a report like how many hours I spent on this deal. Here are the 190 activities that I did during this transaction for you to make sure that this thing went smooth for you. And this is why I get paid,
Wow.
right? As you're signing the closing documents, um, and collecting your commission check. There are already companies that are on the forefront of this that are doing this. That's
Yeah.
very interesting and much needed.
I can just imagine taking a report from say a previous customer you may have just had when you're doing a listing presentation or a buyer's consultation and showing, hey, this was what I, explaining, going through that buyer's broker agreement type of thing and going, hey, look at this report. This is everything I did on the last customer I did. Had a similar home to yours, same price point and everything. Look how, and it sold within 10 days. And this is all the things that I did. It almost helps you, when you're, I imagine a lot of the coaches are telling you with those buyer broker agreement, come in and have this list of things, that all the things that you're going to do, take photos, do this and that type of thing. But here this report is like real,
Yeah,
right down to
exactly,
the
exactly.
minutes. That's pretty impressive.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll
And
have to check.
another problem in the industry right now is the fact that one reason we got into all this mess was that agents were really bad at explaining and educating their customers on the documents they were signing, as
Mm,
far as how they're going to get paid, and that they actually have an option to pay this buyer agent fee or not, and everything's negotiable, and how we get paid. Like the buyers were going to closing, signing closing documents, and like they didn't even know like how much their agent got or even how they got it and stuff, right? So that was a problem. Well, now we're kind of seeing the same thing just on the other side with buyers signing these buyer agency agreements and not really even knowing what they're signing because
Yeah.
the agents aren't really educating them on what the document actually means. So we're still in the same boat. It's just a different document, right?
Yep.
And we're seeing like agents. I was just talking to James Dwiggins. We're seeing agents that are signing, getting buyer agency signed to show a house, and they're signing like a 6-month buyer agency. They'll show the one house, and then they'll never talk to the client again, right? And it's just like, well, and but the client's locked in for 6 months on paper to this agent that has basically ghosted them.
Yeah.
So it's a rabbit hole. Like
Yeah.
we could go down the rabbit hole of this, but at the end of the day, there's a lot of things that NAR and the National Association of Realtors, the local MLSs, the state associations, the plaintiffs, the lawyers. There's a lot of things that they haven't. I don't even know if they've begun to even think through everything they need to think through, but certainly haven't thought through some of the more complex issues
Yeah.
that we're going to face over the next year and everything. But at the end of the day, listen, here's the thing for agents, yeah, this is talking points. You know, this is headlines. This is media. This is, it from the media standpoint, it's created to drive fear. They get paid through driving fear, driving clicks, etc. From the lawyer standpoint, this is created to make billions of dollars, right? This is what this was. It was a cleanup job. And for the brokerages and everything, it's kind of scary. But what's cool is that at this point, 45 days after the settlement, 98% of sellers are still paying the buyer agent fee, either offering up front, which is what 75% of sellers are still doing, or they're allowing it to be negotiated into the contract. I don't think that's anything that's going to stop. What I do think is going to stop is cooperative compensation, which is offering the buyer agent up front. I think that's going to go away just because it's a liability. A and B, it's not even a fiduciary. You're not even representing your seller. Because we've even seen buyers pay their buyer agent fee, their full fee. Right? I'm not going to say percentages, but their full
Right.
fee.
Right.
And so if you're a seller offering that up front and then the buyer actually is okay by paying their own agent, you literally just gave them whatever amount whatever several percent you were offering them, and the buyer's sitting there like, I can't believe they just gave me all this money. And as the listing agent, you just cost your seller. And so
It sounds like you're in the belief that they may be willing to give it, but they're going to wait for it to be asked for.
exactly.
Yeah.
That I believe that's the model, is that you're not going to offer anything. The listing agent's going to sign for their fee and responsibilities and duties on the listing agreement. The buyer agent is going to sign with the buyer for their fee and their duties and responsibilities. And then everything's going to be negotiated into the contract. And the seller's only worried about one thing, their net figure.
Right.
So yes, and the listing agents, it will conform to the new model where we don't offer it up front. However, we do set the expectations that the buyer may ask for some of that to be paid. And it's a very easy conversation. And I think that's the model that we're going to go into in the new world. And it's going to take a long time because we've been so accustomed to this for 40 years.
Yeah. The
And
only
it's
one
going
I
to
can
take a
break
long
in is
time to
my
flush
wife. I
out.
apologize about that.
What's that?
The only one that can break in when I have my phone on Do Not Disturb is my wife.
So I got you. Not a problem, bro. Yeah, I don't blame you, man. I wouldn't cut my wife off either.
Let me get this is actually my other camera, so let me just pop it back in. So I want to get a little background on you because you're an oddity. When I was growing up, you didn't see 20-year-olds. Yeah, I'm gonna bring it back on here.
Okay.
There we go. An oddity in the business was to see a 20-year-old real estate agent. How did you get started at 20 years? What was going on? Your family already in real estate? What happened in your life at 19, 20? Obviously, it doesn't sound like college was on your slate at 20 years old.
So yeah, my mom owned a hair salon and my dad owned a roofing business. So they were both workers in their own businesses, but
Hmm.
owned their own businesses. My mom had a brick and mortar hair salon and a bunch of stylists there working. And then my dad owned a roofing business where he was on the roof roofing, laying shingles, but had, workers working for him and different crews and stuff. So that's what I was born into. I was born into a hardworking, own your own business, environment and blue collar. Like we pretty much live paycheck to paycheck. They were able to save some money, but nothing crazy.
Hmm.
Pretty much spent it all. And no, I had a football scholarship to Missouri Valley in Marshall, Missouri. I went there for a semester. I was like 18. It was like an 18-hour drive. And so when I came back for Christmas, I was like, I'm not going back up there. Like it's just too far. Like there, it snowed and stuff. I was like, nah, I'm not going to
Yeah.
deal with that. So I went to a community college for a semester. Then I went to University of Alabama. I was going to walk on, and then I failed a history class there, and I was like, I'm done with college. I went to three different schools in a year and a half, and it was like I was spending money learning the same stuff as I felt like I was learning in high school, maybe just
Right.
one little level above. But I was still in the first year, so like I didn't get to the more advanced, courses and more detailed into whatever my major was going to be. So I just went and took the real estate class at Shelton State there in Tuscaloosa. So I went to four different colleges in 2 years and got my real estate license. And so it was cool because for me, I was like, I can be a real estate agent and literally have the same opportunities as a doctor, lawyer, etc., without going to school for 10 years. I can do this and
Yeah.
take one class. And that was very anything I felt like I can compress my time or be very efficient or get further in a lower amount of time. I was all about it.
Yeah.
So I dove on that opportunity, and yeah, I was 20 years old, and
But what was it
and it
about?
was
What was it about real estate? I mean, you must have saw. I mean, there was, 2002. We didn't have HGTV with, or what's it, Bravo with $1 million listing. What was going on that
so it was
said, hey,
cool
let's go to
because
real
my
estate?
mom, yeah, so it was cool. So my mom owned the hair salon, and she cut all the doctors, cops, lawyers, and real estate agents' hair. And
Yeah.
I was the little kid in the hair salon because we never had a babysitter. So they brought us to work. When we were little, they brought us to work. I remember I was cleaning up job sites when I was 8 years old, like cleaning the grounds. Like they were
Hmm.
on the roof roofing, and I was cleaning up nails and debris on the ground when I was 8. Like they brought us to work and put us to work. I remember in the hair salon, my mother had me answering the phones, so like they were cutting hair and they had me answering the phone. There's a picture of me online of me when I was like, I don't know how old I was, like 9 or 10 or 11 or 12 or something. And I'm like this in the hair salon with with one of those big box phones. But no, I knew all the real estate agents because my mother and and my dad, of course, roofed houses for a bunch of the builders. So I kind of like got the inside, I kind of had insight from them, with like real estate and homes, right? And builders and building houses. And I'd see the real estate, I'd be roofing the house and I'd see the real estate sign, down there when I was younger.
Hmm.
And I never thought like I want to be that real estate agent, but it was still in the back of my head, like what was going on. And then my dad wanted me to be a doctor, my mom wanted me to be a lawyer and when that didn't really wasn't really going to work out, I loved all the real estate guys, like all the real estate people, when they come into the salon and get their haircut and stuff, they're all so nice,
Hmm.
right? And they're all professional. They all drove the nicest cars in town, right? And it was just kind of a that looks like something I'd like to do.
Yeah.
As they seem happy, they seem rich, they seem fulfilled in life. Um, there's got to be
Did
something
you put the
there.
money potential into it at that point, or just you saw them and just saw their lifestyle a little bit? Because I imagine at 20, you still don't equate the money,
Oh,
the
dude, it was all
potential
about the
of the
money.
earning potential. Yeah.
It was all about the money.
Mm.
The whole thing was about money because my dad and my mother both they worked paycheck to paycheck, and so watching how hard they worked, like seriously hard, to really just kind of make ends meet. Like they had a little extra money. Like we didn't go without, that's for sure. But they didn't have much extra. Like we weren't millionaires. They did not have $1 million
Right.
and nowhere close. Like not even 100,000, right? At any given time. And so, um, to watch them and how hard they worked at the age they were, um, like I've always been really good at math. Like really, really good at simple math, not algebra and all the higher level math, but like just simple
I'm
math.
short of calculus. Don't
Yeah,
take me to
yeah.
a calculus
There, yeah,
class.
that's what I was getting at. And so, but like I've always been very commonsensical around being able to solve problems mathematically. And it's like I've always been, my mind always has worked mathematically, whereas like if I can figure out the equation, then it's over. Like I'm going to put the puzzle together. So it was like roofing. Like
Right.
I knew that if I laid X amount of shingles, right, I would make X amount of dollars, right? So then I had to, okay, I'm going to do X amount of shingles per hour, and I'm going to make X amount of dollars. And like when I got in real estate, I had to figure out how to bridge the gap between equating laying shingles on a roof and X in real estate. And what I realized was making calls.
Right.
Like calls are the same thing as laying shingles on a roof to a real estate agent as laying shingles are to a roofer. And it took me a while to kind of figure out what that laying shingle analogy would be for a real estate agent.
Right. So
But
let's. I want to dig because they're going to get a lot in the training, and I don't. We don't. And I actually have listened to both your books here in the last week before coming on. So, I'm always interested in what is the aha moment, and so you see this opportunity, you go get a license, but obviously you still. I mean, you don't know what to do. Where do you go first? Is there someone that mentors you, or and obviously YouTube's not out there, so you can't go and watch other great
yeah,
people like
dude,
yourself
YouTube
today.
didn't exist.
Exactly.
Zillow didn't exist. Like we barely had cell phones and emails. It was wild.
Right. What happens to you that first year in getting started, and when do you come to this aha moment? Because obviously a lot of your teaching is this math that you're talking about, and hey,
Well,
making the contacts. When do you get that moment?
Well, so as soon as I got my license, I was roofing, of course, and I told my dad, I was like, dude, adios. Like I'm out of here. I'm never gonna roof ever again, bro. I'm a real estate agent now. See ya. And so I go and I do real estate full time and for 30 days, and I sold zero. And so I'm in the office full time, like 8 hours, 9 hours, 10 hours a day. And there was an agent there. His name was Scott, and we're still best of friends. And he was crushing it at the time. He'd been in business for maybe, I don't know, 2, 3 years, something like that. But he was killing it. He was the number one exit realty agent in Alabama at the time. He was just crushing it. He was 10 years older than me, but back then I was, I was 20 and he was 30. So like he was still like young. So like we
Yeah.
were connected. And man, I wanted to be him. Like he was just, crushing it. And the way he did deals seemed so effortless. And the way he negotiated, and I would listen to his conversations. I was like, man, but he was so gracious. He spent time with me and showed me letters to write and postcards to do and emails to send and how to find people and how to look up property owners and how to find their phone numbers and scripts to use. Like he showed me all that stuff. And so that was kind of the beginning, and he was my first mentor in the business, and he was just an agent there, and he just loves helping people. He's just a very helping person, but he still does things like that to this day. There's new agents right now. He's working with them. I'm not even in sales anymore, right? He's still selling, and not only that, he's still helping new agents, just like he helped me when I was a new agent, right? And then
Yeah.
now I'm 43. He's 53. Like he's still helping brand new agents. It's amazing. But after the 30 days, I had to go back to the roofs. So I'm like, Dad, I'm back. Like I got to come back. And so I did that for 7 more months. So it took me 8 months from the point that I got my license to the point that I closed my first deal. And and so, dude, I made so many calls and wrote so many letters and did so many postcards and emails and stuff. And it goes back to what we were talking about in the beginning, how these inexperienced agents, it's, you know, they're going to have a rough time, right? Especially in the new world. But that's fine. Like you've got to go through that to I mean, if it's just easy, then there's no reason to develop skills. Everybody's the same, and it's just the whole thing's
Everybody would be
commoditized.
doing it if it was easy, right?
The whole thing's commoditized at that
Yeah.
point. So what I'm getting at is that I finally get a listing, and man, like I'll never forget that first listing. It was off of a letter, and he called me, and I was in the truck with Dad. We were. I remember exactly where we were on the road. I remember the whole thing. I remember sitting in the passenger side, what the guy said, and it's the only listing I really remember that vividly. And it was just like euphoria, man, because I'd worked 7 months. Well, I closed it in 8 months. So I probably got this listing after about 6.5 months. And um I was like, we're gonna have to list it if you want to. He's like, oh yeah, that's fine. We can list it. Send me the paperwork. I'm like, are you kidding me? Like, you gonna let me list your property, dude? And so we listed it. We sold it in a couple weeks. And what
Yeah.
was cool is my grandmother, she let me list her condo around the same time, and I closed on both of those on the same day. So the first day that I closed on a property, I closed on two on the same day, and it was $11,000 total. It was two checks for $11,000 total. And I was just like, oh my goodness. Well, I kept roofing for about another 30 days because, and I had two more pending deals and I had two listings. So I had two listings and two pending deals. And I was like, okay, I can do this. And that's when I went full time. And I started closing two a month at that time. And then the market blew up. This was like a 2021 type market back then in 2003.
Right.
It blew up, and I was selling two a month, two a month, two a month. And I made $1 million pretty quickly. By 2004, um, by the end of 2004, I'd made $1 million, and I was flipping houses and stuff on top of what I was doing with real estate. And in 2005, the market started coming down, and boom, I lost everything. And it took a while. Like it took a good 6 to 8 months for me to deplete my savings and lose it all. It was a slow bleed
Mhm.
process, but everybody was like, it's going to come back, and give it a couple months, or give it 2 years. I remember it was like, give it 2 years, the market will be rebounded. Well, 2 years later, went back to those same people, and they're like, yeah, give it 2 more years, I guess. And it just like the crash just kept going.
Yeah.
It was the longest crash I've ever seen. And but yeah, I was sleeping in my car
So,
at that time. Somebody gave me.
obviously there's a change of market there. Obviously, imagine, here when I talk to agents that have been doing it long enough and been through that period of time, they quickly had to understand, how to handle short sales, how to handle, the foreclosures, because some of these banks initially were totally unprepared to handle that, REO inventory, and let alone the short sales. I mean, at the time, I started working at Quicken Loans in '05. When this is going on, they're like, short sales, man, they could be 30 days or they could be 30 months. You just don't know what's going on.
Mm,
But you had to
hmm
work through that. What are some of the things that you did to kind of to get through that
Oh yeah.
change?
So this is the best part of the story. I was sleeping in my car. I went back to roofing houses, and I got a job on an oil rig, right? So I roofed houses for a year, then I worked on an oil rig for a year. And I got laid off in 2008, and Scott, the same guy that helped me in the beginning, helped me kind of get back in. And I had two condos under contract. Again, they closed on the same day. So coming into the first time, two deals on the same day. When I came back second time around, I didn't close anything for 3 years. From February 2005 to May 2008, I closed nothing. I was literally homeless. And my mom moved to Tennessee, and my dad was going through the same thing I was going through. He was living in a camper.
Hmm.
So here we are. And what I learned through all that was that closings happen every single day. See, agents feel like the market is correlated to their business, like the market can take your business out. No, it can fluctuate it, right? It can fluctuate it up or down, but it can't erase it. unless you let it erase it. If you don't understand the principles, like
Mhm.
closings, if you go back through history, you're not going to find a day where closings weren't happening and more than you could ever handle. So there's always enough business for everyone to handle as much as they can handle at any given time and still be more left over. And so understanding that helped me a lot. Understanding that because of that, business is unlimited and competition not only doesn't exist, but it can't exist. And that if you treat everyone like family instead of just a paycheck, if you value the relationship over the transaction, and um you treat them like friend and family, and you develop these lifelong relationships, which I didn't have to do that first time around because the market was so crazy,
Right.
then you can really build something incredible that doesn't matter what the market does. So I took all that knowledge, and here we go, round two. So what was interesting is, like you said, there were a lot of REO agents crushing foreclosures, but the banks had already kind of picked out who they wanted those agents to be.
Yeah.
And there really wasn't any room for anybody else. So I was like, okay, well, but the foreclosure agents aren't answering their phones, right? And so so that told me that they're going to end up in the same boat I was in when I wasn't creating relationships, and they're going to lose everything. They may not lose everything, but their business is not going to be what it is today when foreclosures go away, because their
Right.
whole business is right now dependent on foreclosures. So I said, okay, I'm going to do this differently this time around. I'm going to learn my lessons from the first time around, and now I'm going to be strategic. And so what I did is I said, all right, I'm going to go represent all the buyers on these properties that are 50% the price now, these foreclosures. I'm going to represent the buyers. I'm going to find the buyers that want to buy these properties. And then when foreclosures go away and these agents' businesses basically vanish, these buyers who bought these foreclosures are going to call me to sell the foreclosure they bought because now it's worth twice as much, and they want to upgrade into something else. So there's two more deals, and then they're going to refer me five of their friends who do multiple deals with me. And the more buyers I can find on the front end right now are going to be C's that turn into complete, like like forest of deals, a sea of deals later. And so I just went all in with trying to find buyers for foreclosures, as well as listing regular properties and doing all the regular listings and sales and everything. But I was really focused on trying to find as many buyers as I could for these foreclosures, because I knew that later my business would 3, 4, 5, 10x because of that. And so my goal was to be the number one agent in my market. And
Mhm.
so by 2014, that was the first year I did 100 deals. Well, it all came from what I did in 2008, 9, 10, 11, when the market was down, which is the same thing that's happening right now. We're having a 2008 market right now in terms of transactions. And agents are kind of like stalled out, sitting around,
Yeah.
not like, what's the use, when they should be going all in, because right now is when you plant the seeds that's going to 4 or 5 extra business over the next couple of years.
Do you feel it? I was listening to one of your things, but there's a common question I have for a lot of the experienced top producers that we have here. Some of these new agents, because a lot of people come into the real estate world, they have a little bit of vision of what they see in front of them. Single family home sale, that's about as far. But then they, as time goes on, they expand their horizons. But they really are. Would you agree in your experience talking, seeing agents, and obviously they're asking questions at your trainings and so forth all over the country. Many of them just have a 60, 90-day vision.
Mm. Most people do. We're not really built as humans to really see 5 or 10 years out. We're not built that way,
Yeah.
you know. We were back in the day. We were just happy to make it through the day, you know. And now we're in this situation where it's easier to, and it's a lot more beneficial to understand what your future looks like and what it could look like. What's interesting and fascinating is most people, when they think about themselves 5 or 10 years out, they don't see themselves in too much better of a position than they're in right now today. When that's crazy, because like the future you could actually have is whatever you want it to be. You could be a billionaire. I mean, if that's your thing, that's not my thing. Like, I being a billionaire is not on my agenda whatsoever. Um, right? But that's just an example, right? You can be any you could be completely, let's put it this way, you can be in 5 years, you could be completely financially free, completely, have more money than you could ever spend, and spend all your time with your family and working out, going on vacation. You could literally live that life. But most people, they don't see themselves too much different. Like people that work in 9 to 5s,
Hmm.
they see themselves in 10 years still working that 9 to 5. They don't think about their future in terms of what it actually could be. And it's a catastrophe is what it is. But you're right. Yeah, most agents, and that, listen, I think it's okay to think that way in the beginning. Because you have a lot of short-term things to figure out as far as like, because there's a huge learning curve in real estate, and it's why 90% of agents fail. You get in, you're excited, you're through the roof, you're like, oh my gosh, this new opportunity, sky's the limit. I can make my own money, I'm my own boss, freedom, everything, and you're on this high. Well, after a couple weeks, you realize there's this mountain of knowledge you'll never learn in a day. So you start to become a little bit defeated. And then after a couple months, you haven't sold anything after putting in a lot of hours. Then you
Yeah.
start to become super disappointed. So you start out on this high, and then you have this really low low. And most agents can't stomach that emotional roller coaster, and every single agent goes through the same thing, right? I don't care how successful you are now. When you were new, you went through the same thing, on this high and a really low low. And then what happens is then you go on another high, because you're like, okay, this is harder than I thought, but I can do this. Ricky did it. These other
Hmm.
agents did it. So you go on another high, but you don't go up as high as you were the first time, right? And then you're going to have another low, but it's not as low as the first low. And you get to where it kind of balances out a little bit after a good 6 months, year, 18 months, 24 months. It's a huge learning curve. And
I noticed, and I can't remember one of your bios I was reading. I mean, you have a passion because you directly mentioned this in wherever I read it on one of your bios and all the things I was researching you about trying to help whatever the 80% that basically don't renew their license the first time around. You really have a passion to try to dull that down a little bit,
I
make its
do.
percentage better. And was the your bias is the first person to offer free coaching.
Yeah.
Talk about your passion. Obviously, the people who are listening who may be at the 15th event are going to dig in. I'm sure you're going to have some things, some takeaways for them to take away from there. But your passion and what you're doing today in
Mm.
your coaching and so forth.
Yeah, I sold my last listing as an agent in March of 2022. In 2017, really at the end of 16, I started writing those books and started thinking about helping agents. I wasn't even thinking about a coaching company or coaching agents. That's just kind of what it turned into. It really started from a passion of trying to get my story out there, to say, listen, I'm a roofer from Alabama. I make $1 million a year as an agent, as a single agent with no assistant in Alabama. And this is how I did it, by actually just caring about the people and my caring about my customers, and just providing great service and just doing what I said I was going to do, and just being myself. I think a lot of agents feel like they have to be a different person. They have to morph yourself into this high pressure salesperson in order to get business or to win the listing over the next agent, etc. No, you don't. You can just, people actually want to know you, and they want the real authentic you. You're going to win way more business that way. But we aren't taught this. We're programmed to believe that leads are scarce. We're programmed to believe there's only this way to get listings, and that we got to buy leads, or that we have to do social media and stuff like that. And um, so yeah, when I made the mill in my 20s and then lost everything. See, a lot of coaches, they've sold property for 3 years, had a license, sold 19 properties, and now they sell a course for 500 bucks.
Yeah.
And what I did is I got in the business, I made a mill, I lost it, I come back, and then it takes me 6 years from that point, after learning those lessons, to get to 100 deals a year. Then I sell 100 deals a year for 3 years in a row before I even think about trying to teach somebody something.
Yeah.
And then when I did it for free for 7 years. And so the whole idea behind doing that was realizing that there's a huge failure rate in the industry. and nobody's really doing anything to really try to address it per se. And I have something I feel like will help people. And so I just started putting out content and writing books and doing weekly calls and doing what I can do to help these agents. And thousands of them have reached out to me over the years and said, I would not be in business anymore. I would have quit if it wasn't for, what you've taught us.
Hmm.
So it's working. What we're doing is working, and we are reducing the failure rate.
Right. So again, listening to your books, I've been watching a couple of your presentations on YouTube that you've been at recently, and what you're teaching. I mean, there's not some sort of rocket science. There's not some sort of special equation that you're out there, but obviously you've done it. What do you say to some of these? I mean, because I imagine there's some people in that crowd we know that are going, man, I can't make those 50 phone calls a day. I can't, I'm not that good at the relationship part. Um,
Yeah.
and I think they're trying to jump from zero to diamond, right? As your one book, zero, they're trying to be a diamond when they haven't even passed the gold
Mm,
bracelet yet. You know what I'm
yeah.
saying? How do you
Well,
help them baby step and just get the train rolling?
Well, they're immature in their business. They're an infant in the business world, right? People that say that they don't understand the principles.
Hmm.
And what are the principles? What goes back to the Bible and the entire formula, right, of success in life and being happy and everything else is the be do have, right? Be do have. And what most people the what they what they do is they want to have, right, but they don't want to do things they need to do to have,
Hmm.
right. And some people they do things, right, but then they just do the same stuff, right, forever, and so they don't really get much than what they have now because they're doing the same stuff that got them what they have. And so very few people actually be. See, it's be, do, have. And what's the be part? The be is become the person that can do the thing, which means you have to learn new things so that you can do new things, so you can master new things. And so if you're not continuously learning those new skills and applying it to your business and your life and your daily routines, et cetera, then you're never going to have new things. So the people that say, well, I can't call 50 people or I'm not good at relationships. Okay. Well, you're not going to have the things that you want to have unless you become the person that can do the things you're saying you can't do because you can't get around it. See, you
Hmm.
can't get around talking to people in order to sell real estate. You're never going to sell a piece of property without talking to the client. It's never going to happen. Never. Um, not in today's world, right? Is there some weird thing in 50 years where, I guess you communicate telepathically? Who knows what happens, right? I
Right.
mean, we got the telelink thing or interlink or whatever it is that Elon had. Like, who knows what's going to happen? But
Right.
as it stands, you're not going to sell a property without talking to someone in person, on the phone, etc. So if you're telling me you can't go call 50 people, right? Talk to them about and begin a business relationship with them to help them buy and sell real estate or now and in the future, I don't know what I can do to help you. Right. And so if that's your problem, right? So then we need to take a step. If you're not doing the thing you need to do to have what you want to have, then we got to take it one more step back and say, well, you haven't become the person that can do the thing. So let's work on becoming the person that can do the thing, right? And so then we have to baby step them through the process of becoming the person who can do that thing, to call those 50 people, to create those relationships. And that's where some serious coaching and training comes in.
The because you make it. I mean, obviously, you're training. What I'm hearing, and then well, audio in the book. I guess I was hearing it all. So listening to the conversation, or there's some people I see. I like to use the phrase. They have the gift of gab. They're
Mm,
kind of easier. They could pick up the phone. They could talk to anyone, run them into the
mhm,
street, and
mhm.
talk about whatever. And that's a lot of what I listening to you your trainings and your speakers. They call the 50 people. Don't talk to them about selling your house. Matter of fact, the one I was just listening to, you were talking about situations.
Yeah.
was the video here in creating situations like just talk to them like, hey, are you any interested in moving up, because you have a buyer for their house is really
Mhm.
what you're trying to do. How do I get them
Yeah.
out of their house because I got a buyer for it? Do they want to
Mhm.
move up? Maybe they want to downsize. I don't, who knows what's going on in their thing. But
Mhm.
just to create that mindset of having the conversation, which I would imagine is the biggest challenge when they're listening to your trainings. Like, well, geez, Ricky's really good at just like talking to them about whatever and what their dreams are or what's going on in their life and pulling that out of them so he can come back and obviously give them a solution.
Yeah.
Um, I would imagine that's probably one of the biggest hangups a lot of people have when they're
Yeah.
listening to some of your stuff.
So the number one objective, right, to prospecting, lead gen, etc., is to get them to open up to you to tell you what they want to do so that you can help them do it.
Yep.
That's it. Agents are too focused on trying to list that expired, trying to list that for sale by owner, trying to sell the property they inquired about, whatever the main reason is that they called about. Um, they're so focused on that when that's not even the goal, right? The goal is to understand what it is they want to do. And you can't understand what they want to do unless they open up and tell you. And you can't get them to open up unless they feel comfortable. And they're not going to feel comfortable unless you make them feel comfortable. So the number one skill is making people feel comfortable with you, right? If you can't make somebody feel comfortable with you, you're not going to do a deal with them.
No.
That's the number one skill, is to be able to make them feel comfortable enough with you to open up to you based on the questions you ask, to tell you what it is they actually want to do so that you can help them do it. And that's the name of the game, helping people do what they want to do, and understanding what they want to do, why they want to do it. That's the entire game. So yeah, that's something I push big time, is I
Yeah,
try to.
your whole when you were explaining that, it really made a lot of sense, and I think you were interacting with the crowd when I was watching there. It's a shell game. Matter of fact, I think you asked who has a listing right now, and a couple people stood up and they were explaining, I got this property. Of course, some people talked about
Oh yeah.
commercial property, and the realization is you've got someone who may want to move into that neighborhood. Let's find someone who wants to move out of that house, move out of that neighborhood,
Yeah,
whatever
and and
whatever
and
it
and
is.
and you
Someone,
can take it a step further.
yeah,
Like, when you're trying to find the person that wants to move out of that neighborhood, okay, and you got somebody who wants to move into that neighborhood, right? So we're calling that neighborhood to see if they want to upgrade into this home, to see if they possibly want to move, knowing you got a buyer in the back end. You may or may not find anybody, but guess what? Out of the 100 calls, you picked up 6 more people that you had
yeah,
meaningful, deep conversations with, and a very deep connection that's gonna let's say 3 of those turn into lifelong clients. Well, how much, what's the lifetime value of those 3 clients, right? It's astronomical, man. It's like 50 to $100,000 per client, and really more than that when you count referrals and all the other things. And so I try to help agents build a career,
yeah,
right? So if I'm going to be in the business for say 10 more years, right? Okay, great. I'm trying to figure out how to cram 1,000 deals into the next 10 years, right? Or even 2,000 deals into the next 10 years. How do I do that? Well, I better be planting a lot of seeds right now with people, right? So that in the next 2, 3, 4, 5 years, all the people I call this year are going to call me, and they're going to refer me to a lot of people because of the service that I provide, right? So yeah, we're going to crush this year. Shoot, if you're planting seeds, you're going to run across people that are closing deals. Remember, deals happen every day.
yeah.
But what's cool is that where the real magic is in 3 to 5 years from now, when all the people you called over the last 3 to 5 years all come back at the same time, right? Because now the market's great and you're the one,
Yeah.
that they want to do business with.
I really like the way you explained. Like you've got, you asked that crowd, hey, is there $20 million homes in this area? And I think they said yes, because
Mhm.
then let's bring it down to more realistic numbers in Northeast Florida. You got, the person owns the $500,000 home, but they'd really like to move over here for the $8-9 million home, and having that conversation with them. Hey, are you interested in moving? But you're adding them to your CRM. You're starting to send them information, and and I'm sure you're reaching out. I'm sure you coach on what your follow up is with those people to nurture them, because now
Mhm.
you just entered into their world, and now
Right.
they are seeing your stuff, and when that real estate transaction comes along, they're ready to move up, move down, whatever it is, you're there, in front of them.
That's it, man.
Yep.
That's it all day long.
Yep. You said something else that I really liked too, that you're training on. Don't be dependent on someone else's leads.
Yeah.
And you expand a little bit on that, because there is a good group of agents who, maybe initially go somewhere to get started and maybe are fed leads, but you want to learn how to fish
Yeah, dude.
yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, like, listen, as a new agent or whatever, you're trying to get going, you take everything you can get, right? You take everything you can get. But what you have to realize is that what I said earlier, you can't do a deal without talking to someone,
Mm-hmm.
right? So eventually somebody's got to tell you that every lead gen, the goal of every lead gen activity is to create a list of people to sit down and call. So you do Facebook leads, you do Zillow, you do open houses, you do YouTube, you do whatever it is. You're using those platforms to create a list of people, and then you're going to sit down and you're going to call them, right? So the question becomes, if every lead gen activity is set up as designed to create a list of people for you to call, and that's going to be the end result anyway, then why spend a lot of time, money, and energy to create a list of random people you have no power to of who these people are, right? Why wouldn't you spend literally pennies and get the exact list of property owners you want to do business with and just sit down and call them? Because it's gonna create a list of people to call either way.
Yeah.
So you got to call them either way. So why not just sit down and call the people that you want to do business with right now, instead of waiting to get the list and spending a lot of time, money, and energy to get the list, and the list being, you have no control over how many leads you're getting, who the people are, quality of the leads, etc. Why wouldn't you just get the list right now of the exact people you can do business with for literally a penny a piece and just call them? Because you got to call them anyway. So when you understand the real principles and what the game really is in a nutshell, you start to open up to the fact that, hey, I think Ricky's right. Like I mean, you can just call. And what's so funny is you could call property owners and use the same script that you would if they were a Facebook lead, a Zillow lead, a YouTube lead. Use the exact same script, right? And I tell some people, like, oh, I don't want to cold call people or whatever. You're not cold calling people, right? You're doing community outreach to see what in the world you could do to help them. I was like, grab a list of property owners and pretend like they're Zillow leads. If that's what makes your little heart flutter, if that's what makes you happy, is calling Zillow leads, like, tell somebody to trick you one day and swap the Zillow leads out for property owners, and don't tell you, and see how successful you will be. Because if you call property owners with the same enthusiasm that you call
Mm-hmm.
Zillow leads with, you would crush it.
I might title this podcast, "What Can You Do to Help Them?" I think that might be because I think, listening to you, like you said, you're just reaching out with that kind of attitude, that kind of mindset. That hey, what I'm a realtor. This is what I do. What can I do to help you? Are you ready now? Ready later? What it is? I'm going to keep you in touch, because
That's it.
as these agents reach out, they even on can I give you a home evaluation? Why not just call and give them the evaluation?
Yeah.
Or send them the postcard. At least I would think that you would have that attitude. Don't ask to give them the evaluation. Just give them the evaluation. Would you agree? Is that kind of your mindset?
Give them the evaluation of what?
Yeah. There's the one of the agents are advertising campaigns to try to get people called. Hey, click here and I'll give you a free home evaluation.
I would never give an evaluation to anybody.
Yeah.
Never.
They're using it as someone searching them out versus you searching them. Well, I think it goes back to what we were talking about just a few minutes ago. You got someone that wants to move in that neighborhood. Let's call around and find someone who's might be actually thinking.
It doesn't matter to me if somebody is reaching out to me or if I'm reaching out to them. If I'm going to put it in somebody else's hands, the level of my success, I don't think I'm going to be very successful in this business, right? E-commerce, you selling sneakers online, right? It's a faceless business. They don't even have to know who you are. They're just buying sneakers. Sure. But this is a personal branding business. This is a conversation business. This is a consultation business. You
Mhm.
have to talk to people, and the more people you talk to, and the better the skills are you are at getting them to open up to tell you what they want to do, then the more deals you're going to close. And so if I'm sitting around not having conversations because people didn't reach out to me, or if I'm trickling conversations because I wait on people to call me, then I'm going to be an incredibly average agent at best. And maybe I'm okay being an average agent. That's I have no problem with somebody if that's what they want to be. But don't sit around and tell me that you want to be $1 million agent and you're sitting around waiting on clients to call you,
Right.
right? You're in sales. Get out there and find out who needs your help. Get out there and find out who, because 90% of buyers and sellers use real estate agents right now by choice. They don't have to. They can do it themselves. They can sell by owner. They can buy by owner, but they choose to use a real estate agent. What does that mean? It means they need us. These people need our help, and closings are happening every day. And you're just going to sit around while there's people out there in the marketplace that need your help. I don't understand. I'm just gonna say I don't understand that mentality. Of course, I grew up in a very blue collar family. We owned our own businesses. We ran our own businesses. We worked inside of our own businesses. So
Yep.
that's just who
You
I
had to
am.
get up and get it done.
That's
Um,
it, bro.
I want to just finish the last few minutes here. You had the creating content creation formula, because the obviously social media and everything is, obviously the agents are being thrown all these trainings and different things to talk about, Canva, Instagram,
Yeah.
whatever it is, they're being thrown all these things. You talk about you were creating content, but you didn't have, when you first got started, all these social media platforms to put out. You were doing it through email and so forth. What is your mindset today in a sense of some basic things that agents need to be doing in a sense of creating content to show that they are, I would assume you're, to show that they are knowledgeable, they're an expert in their field and so forth. What are some of the things that you recommend they be doing?
Call people and tell them. Call people and tell them what's going on, like with the market, etc. Right. So,
Mhm.
like, the baseline of your business is conversations. So if you're not there yet, then focus on that before you focus on these other things, right? Let's get that going, right? Let's get some momentum there. Let's block out time to have conversations every day with potential buyers and sellers, because if that's not there, nothing else is going to really take you to the next level. Once we have that in place, we want to get a weekly email in place so that the people we're talking to, whether they want to do something now or they want to do something later, or they want to do something in 3 or 4 or 5 years, it doesn't really matter to you, because that email is going to make sure they never forget you and that great first impression that you gave them when you called or met them in person or whatever you did. They're never going to forget you. So that weekly email, they're going to see your name in their inbox every single Wednesday or whatever. Then once we get those two pillars in place, then we're going to start posting content every day, right? You're going to post one at least 3 to 7 times a week. And you just document your process. There's the type of content that you spend a lot of time, money, and energy on to think of, script out, film, produce, edit, and post. And then there's the type of content you just open up your phone and just do a selfie style video of you in front of a property that literally takes you 60 seconds to post, documenting your process, showing your clients how hardworking you are, and you post it. It took you no time, but it's doing serious damage in the market in terms of exposure for your business. So you need all of these pillars in place. The most
Mhm.
important one, of course, is conversations, because I can build. I can't build. Let's say I can't build. Okay, I can build a business, $1 million business, without social media at all. A real estate agent business. I can build a 7-figure real estate business, no social media. Right. I cannot build a 7-figure business without talking to people. Cannot. Not going to happen. So the conversation is the most important thing, regardless of what your lead gen is. So get that pillar in place, get that pillar rolling, get your weekly email rolling, right? Once those two foundational principle pillars are in place, then start your social media stuff. And you can start your social media stuff before then. That's fine.
Mhm.
But don't do it without doing these other two things, right? These other two things are like, if you're just doing social and you're not doing these other two things, like, social needs to be used to lead to conversations, right? That funnel people into your weekly email. You should be using social to funnel conversations into your weekly email. That's what social media should be used for, and to show people how consistent you are. When you're there every day and they see you every day, they're like, wow. this is the agent I want. They're consistent, they're dependable, they're hardworking. So, but just document your process. Hey, like check out this view from this, condo or whatever, and then bam, you show them the condo, the view from the beach. Like if you've ever thought about owning a condo down here in Gulf Shores, give me a ring. I'm Ricky Carruth. Here's my brokerage. Shoot me a message. Bam. The next day, it's like, hey, I'm in the office making calls a day. Maybe I might call you. You never know. But anyway, I'm gonna get back on these calls. I'm in here selling properties. Let me know if you need anything. Hit me a message. Like
Right.
literally just document your process and try not to spend a lot of time on it. And that way it's real, it's authentic, it's you. And then you've got some momentum with your personal brand.
You made a statement in the talk. Oh my God. Uh, you made a statement in the talk about content, because obviously a lot of the agents are like, oh, what content should I have? I liked if you want to expand on it a little bit, but the fact you said go out and uh, gather education on the industry, and then more or less that's your content. Go out and, hey, what did you learn today, and share it with your people.
Yeah, you should be watching MLS every single day, the hot sheet, new
Mm-hmm.
listings, pendings, closings, all that stuff. Every day you should be looking at that. 10, 15 minutes, scan through it, just like let it subconsciously sink into your brain and your cranium, and you become an expert really, without even realizing it, because you're just on top of the market and you're watching stuff. You see stuff come up in neighborhoods you've sold in, you see things that you have buyers potentially for, etc. It's just you're keeping up with the market. Then kind of look at articles every week, search your market and art and real estate, and just hit the news tab and just see what kind of articles pop up. Just kind of stay kind of on top of it. Not only for the only for the case of being educated for your clients.
Yeah.
Not in a not in a state of fear. I'm watching the market because if it crashes, then my business is going to crash and burn. No, it's not. It's absolutely not. It will if you let it, if you slow down with the market, if you allow the market to do that just because of your perception of it,
Right.
but it doesn't affect you. Let's put it this way, a market can affect you on the downside a good 20-30%. Like how much are agents down this year? 50% at the most, right? It didn't take them out. I mean, it took you out if you're doing 2 deals a year and now you're doing 1. But on the flip side, when the market rebounds, you can 3, 4, 5x your business. So a market can literally 3, 4, 5x your business, but it can only, to the downside, worst case, like 2008 type situation, hurt your business by 50%. Right. So just look at data, guys. I mean, it's
Well,
there.
I think you made me, when you were saying that, and it just brings around something that I've been kind of preaching since I think the collateral damage from the settlement has been devaluing the real estate agent and what they do, as we talked very early. Um, Agents have to realize they're pillars, they're influencers, they're a good, housing is such a big part of our economy, and people moving in and out, and the first person, a lot of times that they're being transferred in an area, they may not even know anyone because work's transferred them in, and the only people they know is some people at work that they just met. Well, as a real estate agent, you're an influencer, and the content that we were just talking about, to be sharing those things. Hey, this is a great restaurant, or hey, there's a new road going in, there's a new shopping center, whatever those things, and sharing those things. It just all came to light when I was listening to you explain that. And it
Yeah,
goes back to my theme of how much of an influence, an important role a real estate agent plays in their community.
for sure, man. Well, I'm excited to get down there and see
Yes.
everybody.
I appreciate your time here today. August 15th, October 15th. It's already October. October 15th. St. John, St. Augustine Board is sponsoring at Palencia. You can, if you're on the page, I'll put in the link in the show notes and so forth if you have not made your reservation. But Ricky, I appreciate you. Looking forward to meeting you face to face on the 15th.
Absolutely, man. I'll be there.
All right.